take-home science with y'all. I hope y'all got the kit from the Hands-On Science Center, and we're going to have a little bit of fun learning about plant biology and a little fun with getting dirt.
Woo. Dirt.
So we're going to step right in and go ahead and look at our box. It's the pea and flower growing kit. So like I said, we're going to be doing some plant biology. And the first thing you do when you open up the box is you're going to see the booklet. So Olga, you want to talk a little bit about the booklet?
Sure, absolutely. So these are booklets that we put together for you that if you are watching this video, you can read these booklets along with it as well. So we have it right over here. And what we are going to do before we start with our lesson and kind of go over what we're talking about today is on the first page we have a few questions. It's our pre-test. Go ahead and fill those out for us. We just like to see our viewers at home that are doing the kits with us, what they already know about the lessons that we are going to dive into. And if you can't answer any of those questions, I don't know is a perfect answer. It's all right, because if you knew everything, then what's the point of this kit? So go ahead and fill that out, and we would really appreciate it next time if you can come into the Science Center to pick up your next kit, if you can give us your pre and post questions so we know that what you've learned, and if you've learned it. Even if you learned a thing or two while having fun, that would be great as well.
Awesome. Well, like she said, let's go ahead and take the pre-test, and then we're going to dig right into some dirt. So, guys, what's the dirt on dirt? Well, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, just,
What is the dirt on dirt?
The juice,
so,
the tea.
Soils are super complex. Like, they have a lot of different bacteria in them. They have a lot of different minerals. And
so it's not just dirty?
Oh, it is just dirty. But if you look really close, sometimes you get to see a little bit more inside what's in the dirt. So, what is dirt? Well, some people would call it the skin of the earth.
Okay.
Well, why would they call it that?
I don't know. I'm going to guess maybe it's because when you walk outside and you look at grass and you look at flowers, you're almost always going to see dirt on the ground. So it's what's on top of the earth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So soil is capable of supporting life. So just like our skin, we have hairs on our skin, and think of the hairs on your skin as like the plants growing on it. So the plants are growing in the soil, and that's going to be our skin, and then we got the plants on top, which is our hairs. So that's a weird comparison, but it's kind of how the earth works.
Exactly.
So it supports a lot of different life, whether it be animals or plants, or just gives bacteria a place to live. And there's always the good bacteria, and then there's also some bad bacteria that we don't really want.
Yeah.
But most of us think dirt's just bleh, right?
That's kind of what I think. It just kind of gets you dirty. I think dirt has a bad
bad rap?
A bad rap, exactly. Like, you might think just it's bad, it's you don't want any of it. But I think maybe when you're growing a garden, when you're trying to grow something else in the ground, it's probably good to have good, nutritious dirt. Right?
Yeah.
And
So
why is that?
like Olga said, there's nutrients in the dirt, and every one of those little pieces of nutrients has its own key role. And so what we're going to be talking about today, there's going to be a lot of different types of nutrients, but the main one we're going to be talking about is the nitrogen cycle.
Ooh,
But before we get to that, there's a lot of different layers of soil. So if you'll flip to the second page of the book, you'll see that it has a picture there, and it says that there's an organic layer, which is going to be your top layer. Then you got the topsoil, which is right below that. You got subsoil, parent material, and then bedrock.
So it seems like the lower in the layers you go, the more thicker your dirt is, and the more rocks you're seeing, and it's not as soft. It gets softer when you get on top.
Yeah, so there's going to be more nutrients at the top where, say, plants have decayed or animals have died and passed away. And we all know that if you plant a fish right next to your seeds, that it adds more nutrients to the soil. So I wouldn't recommend planting a fish with your seeds today, but it might stink a little bit. But it does add nutrients to the soil.
Believe it or
So
not.
plants they play a big role in how soil works and how plants work with soil. I mean, they're intertwined with each other. Without soil, plants couldn't be a thing, and without soil, I don't think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, if another thing is when you look at your 4 layers, I just realized this right now. Topsoil. You know, you go many times into a hardware store or like Walmart or Home Depot or somewhere, and you'll buy a layer of topsoil for your plants. So
Yeah.
that's when you were saying, what Austin was saying earlier, there's all that nutrients on top.
So what you normally buy at a store would be potting soil.
Okay.
Now, topsoil you can get from a hardware store, but you have to order it in a big old pickup
Oh,
truck,
right.
or you'll get a dump truck load. But potting soil is what we have here, and we're going to be using some of that today. And there's a reason it's called potting soil, and it's more nutrient than, say, the soil in the earth, because they've added fertilizers to it. They've added other things to make it more nutritious for this plants. So, what's the nitrogen cycle, Olga? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, so the nitrogen cycle is just a way nitrogen is fixed into the plants, and it's just moved all around through the earth, back into the skies, through other animals, through the environment, and it just kind of gets recycled all over again. So plants, they need the nitrogen, and then we get nitrogen as well from animals. So animals, sometimes like cow manure, as gross as it sounds, there's actually a lot of nutrients in it that's really helpful for plants as well. And then nitrogen's in plant proteins, nitrogen in the atmosphere. So when we breathe in oxygen, and we breathe in oxygen, we breathe in nitrogen, that's all elements that are in the air that we breathe. So
Yeah, I mean,
nitrogen's
the
everywhere.
atmosphere is made up of a lot of nitrogen. It's not just oxygen. Oxygen makes up a small percentage compared to nitrogen. So we have to assume that the plants need a lot of nitrogen to live, or
Yeah, so
Yeah.
bacteria that's in the dirt as well fixes and uses the nitrogen as well that our plants need. So today, the plants that we're using are the peas and the marigold seeds.
Awesome. Well, let's keep going through, and
Cool.
it looks like we're getting to our experiment. Let's see. For this experiment, we're going to be planting and observing the growth of 2 different types of plants. So, like she just said, we have pea plants, and we also have some marigold seeds, and they're really small. But they're completely different plants, but you'll see some similarities and some differences between the 2 of them. So, what do we have today? What are our materials we're going to be using today, Olga?
All right, so we have our marigold seeds, we got our dried peas. Peas are very nutritious and delicious as well. We have cups that we're going to grow our plants in, and we have some cotton balls, and we have the potting soil as well. So what we're going to do is take 2 of our cups are going to have cotton, and then 2 of our cups are going to have potting soil, and pretty much the gist is we're going to see how well they're going to grow in comparison. So, and maybe just do a hypothesis, like, do we think that these plants are going to, and these seeds are going to grow better in potting soil or in cotton? Does cotton have a lot of nutrients?
Before we get all into our experiment, there's one piece of material that we didn't offer y'all, or we didn't provide for y'all, and that's something you can get at home, and water. So you can get it out of the tap water, out of the garden hose, whatever you would like. It's just easier when it's in a small bottle or a cup. So make sure you get some water ready for when you're about to plant your seeds, and we're going to get right into this thing. So as Olga said, it's good to make a hypothesis. Which one do you think is going to grow faster? Do you think it's going to be the pea plants or the marigold seeds? Do you think it's going to be in cotton, or do you think it's the potting soil? These are 2 good hypotheses.
And another thing I think before we start is just like look at the potting soil and just take a look at it. You can obviously smell it. You smell that earthy smell. What else you see in it? It looks like there's what looks like some wood chips, some little white specks, which I'm assuming is some fertilizer that's going to be added to it, and just kind of like feel the richness of it. And then next time you go outside and you see some dirt, you can compare and think if you think that dirt is more nutritious for plants or maybe less compared to this kind. So it's just kind of good to see the materials that you have when you start your project.
And there should be enough of this left over where you can plant another seed if you have one at home, or if there's enough seeds in here that you can actually have one more experiment and maybe use the rest of the soil in here and maybe leftover cotton if you have any to mix the two and see how the plants do.
All right.
But let's go ahead and get into the directions. So it says separate your 4 cups in 2 of them, distribute soil evenly. So let's go ahead and put some soil into the cups.
All right, so we can just pick some up and put it in here, or you can scoop a little in there if you want.
I think I'm going to scoop.
All right, that's probably a little bit easier of a way to do so.
Well, let's get a little bit more.
Okay, I'm going to get some more as well.
So we have 1 cup of soil and
All right.
2 cups of soil.
I'll put that right there.
And then we got our cotton, and these are pretty easy. You just shove them in. So we got 2 cups of cotton. So what do we do now? Let's see. The first group, we're going to slide a dried pea down the side of the cotton ball cup. So let's get a dried pea out.
Do you like these?
Not really.
Really?
I'm not a fan of peas. So if you'll slide
Slide them to the side.
of the cotton,
All right, let's put that right there.
slide them down where they're covered, but where you can kind of see them still. Okay, now let's take our marigold seeds and make these covered. They're kind of hard to push down. There's 2.
You give me one. Oh no, there's. Yep, they can be very easy to lose them because they're very small. But marigolds are very, very pretty. They're beautiful flowers.
I'm going to do the cotton.
All right, so right here, the 2 to the right, we have the peas, and then the 2 to the left right here are the marigold seeds.
So let's go ahead and separate those. We got our peas
Yeah,
and our
marigolds.
marigolds. All right.
Awesome.
So now what do we do? It says, now put enough water to make the cotton and soil completely wet. Now, I will warn you on this, you don't want to pour a whole bunch of water in these because there's nowhere for the water to go other than getting absorbed. So you just want to put a little bit of water in and make sure there's enough water to cover up the soil and make the soil wet as it can be. So we're going to start with the pea plant. We're going to put a little bit of water in. And you'll notice that the water doesn't really sink down that good, so it'll actually take some time to absorb into it, okay? Now we're going to do the cotton, and this one's kind of different. So when we pour the water on the cotton starts shrinking, because cotton's super absorbent. And we're just going to press it down a little bit and put a little bit more water in there. Don't put too much in or else you're going to have a boat of cotton that'll float because there's too much. And we're going to do the same thing with the marigold seeds. Push down just gently and just a little bit of water.
This kind of reminds me when I was a kid and we tried to grow lima beans with paper towels. So it's kind of like the same idea pretty much, you know, and I would assume it'd grow maybe a lot better with the potting soil, but we don't know. We'll see.
So now we got our experiment set up. Now we need a place to put them. Now, where would you think the best place to put seeds and plants?
Well, plants, you know, they can't really eat a cheeseburger, so they have to use photosynthesis, and they need a lot of sunlight. So if you have a windowsill in your house, it's probably a good idea to put it right on there so then it can get plenty of sunlight as well.
Okay, windowsill. You could even place them outside if you have a small shaded area or unshaded area. That's fine too.
September, it's a good time right now to...
It's not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that the plants like to grow in about 70 to 80 degrees. That's their prime germination. Does anybody know what prime or germination is? You know what germination is, Olga?
Just the ability to grow.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's when the seed starts sprouting or starts spreading its roots. So that's germination. So what we're going to do now that we have our 4 cups with our 2 plants in it, we are going to take them to the windowsill or outside, and then we're going to start documenting growth each day. Now, they're not going to grow in 5 minutes. They're not going to grow in 10 minutes. But you'll start seeing some changes after a day, maybe 2 days, and that's why you put the peas on the outside or where you can see the edges of them. That way you can see when they start sprouting or growing roots, and it takes a little bit of time. This isn't a super quick kit, but it's really cool at the end of the day whenever you start seeing a plant grow.
Absolutely.
So on our back or on our sheet,
Right here.
if you will put it over there for them to see.
Oh, yep.
We have a documentation form where you can actually observe every other day, or I believe it's 2 days, every 2 days. Right,
There we go.
right here. You can actually see every 2 days you want to document the growth. Now, this is what I said, it's not a quick kit, it goes over time, but by the end of the 14 days that we have right here, if you keep up with it, you'll see that there's going to be more growth on one than the other. Now, which one is that? That's for you to decide and to see what happens.
Yeah, that's something that scientists do. You know, they take a lot of notes, make a lot of observations, and as cool as it would be for them to just start growing right here in front of us, that's not really how plants work. They, you know, as Austin said, they take time. So make sure you're taking note of, you know, not even just the plant itself, but look at the water. You know, notice that you probably have to be giving it water every day, you know, for sure every other day. You know, you don't want to dehydrate your plants. So how's the water intake for your plants? Do you see any budding? Do you see any roots that are starting to sprout? Just make sure that you, any colors, textures, if you're very careful with it. Maybe do you see any leaves you like after 14 days or after the 10th day maybe. So just make sure
you might even see some changes after day 2.
Might.
You never know. It just depends on the seed, depends on the weather, and depends on the sunlight. So,
Exactly.
So guys, we have the post test now. After you've observed or after you've read through the book, go ahead and try the post test and see what you can answer now that you've learned a little bit more about plant biology and some soils. Also, we have coming up our next kit that I'm super excited about. I know Olga is
I'm
too.
excited about it. Pretty cool. It's humorous.
That is part of it. It is part of it. But try to see if we can guess what type of kit we're going to be doing next based on what we have going on right there. And it'll be on y'all's book so y'all can read through and kind of see what it is. We have one more announcement going on. We like doing Facebook Lives. We like interacting with y'all. We like getting questions from y'all and answering them right as soon as you ask them. Now, we're not able to be we're not able to have y'all in the audience every time we do one of these shows, but you can watch from home. So
yeah, so what we're going to do for our next Facebook Live, it is September 30th. It's on Newton's laws, and it's just a little bit of physics, and there's a lot to it, and just the 3 laws of Newton's laws of motion and how it's used in everyday that we probably don't ever even realize or think about. So it's really, really cool, and we'll see some fun things.
yeah, so I love the Newton's laws. I think they're fun. I think you can pick something out of your everyday life almost anywhere you're at and figure out that it's part of Newton.
You just got to trust physics. That's what Bill does.
And guys, that's wrapping up this week's Take Home Science Kit. I hope y'all learned something. Make sure to shoot us a comment or an email or something like that. Have your parents email us your pre-test and post-test, post-test, and then comment or show us the pictures on Facebook how much your plant's grown.
We would love to see how everyone's plants turn out, and also tell us what does sunlight look like? Maybe for some folks that are doing this project at home, had more shadier days outside and it wasn't always sunny, so I think it makes it fun as well.
Yep, so guys, we'll see you in the next kit. I hope you all have a good time.